2 on Twitter, and Bruce Cagle Jr. Guys, how you doing?
Wonderful, man. How you doing?
Great. I'm
Doing good.
great. Yeah. Boy, Boston really took care of business. It wasn't even the only close game, the only fight the Dodgers put up was that 18 inning game. Otherwise, it would have been a sweep. Um, I've heard this said, but do you think this is true? Do you think this Red Sox team might be the best of this century?
Uh, I don't know if I'd put them best of this century. It's got to be there, though. 108 wins during the regular season is impressive in itself. That's honestly two-thirds of your games. And to do what they did through the playoffs, I mean, they took care of Houston. I mean, they took care of the Yankees, only lost one game. They took care of Houston, only lost one game. And then they took care of the Dodgers and lost that one game, which is actually two games combined, if you look at it. 18 innings,
Yeah.
you know? So, honestly, they just had everything clicking for them in the playoffs. They were a good team as it was. But, of course, we've seen before, even good teams, certain guys in the lineup get cold. You have a couple bad starts. Maybe a reliever blows a game, and you can lose a 7-game series easily, even if you've won 100 games during the season. But they just had everything going. Like we said last time, Like we said last time, their lineup was relentless. And it showed even in the game 4 when they were up 2-1 in the series, they were getting shut down during the game. They were losing 4-0 going into the 7th inning, but they don't give up. They got Rich Hill out of there. They got to the bullpen, and boom, they scored 9 runs. They just don't stop, and there's no let up in that lineup whatsoever. Like we talked about before, you had Jackie Bradley against Houston winning the LCS MVP, batting 8th and 9th. This time you got Steve Pearce winning the World Series MVP coming through for them. So when you throw guys like that in there, along with the usual suspects like Benintendi and Betts and guys like that who are doing their thing, and honestly, their bullpen came through again. Joe Kelly was locked down. They managed Alex Cora. I give a lot of credit to him managing putting Eovaldi in the bullpen in that long game, having Porcello pitch, getting Sale in there to get the last out. He made all the right moves, and the players came through for him. That's what it came down to. And they were the best team. They proved it. They were the best team in the major leagues this year. What do you got, Bruce? Anything?
So, I thought the Dodgers were the deeper team when you looked at it on paper, especially when you looked at their hitters. I thought, okay, this 1 through 9 is going to be tough, or 1 through 8. But it's amazing because Johnny touched on, Betts and Benintendi and Martinez. So you go back to that game they won 9-6 and overcame the 4-run Dodger lead, where the Dodgers were 54-0 on the season. They were saying something like that, 54-52. They didn't lose at all when they were spotted a 4-run lead, and then essentially they gave up almost 9 unanswered, I feel like. But Betts and Benintendi combined 1 for 9 with 0 runs batted in and 2 runs scored of those 9 runs. So they really didn't do anything in that. JD Martinez in that game, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, 1 walk. He didn't do anything. Combined, they were, 2 for 13? That's amazing that they put up 9 runs with Betts, Benintendi, and Martinez going 2 for 13 with no one batted in, with no real action. If you would have told me, oh, hey, these guys are going to be terrible this whole entire series and Boston's just going to roll easily, I would have laughed at you. But that's kind of what it was. Betts didn't hit a home run until, the final game, and they kind of were cruising in that game when you looked at it. So it was very surprising to me how deep that Boston lineup truly was. The pitching performance you got from Nathan Eovaldi was amazing. He threw up a quality start in extra innings when nobody really thought he was going to be able to. He wasn't going to throw that, but he threw, what was it, 3 out of the first 4 games? I thought he threw.
Yeah.
he was a stud for them. David Price, we talked about it last time. Joey, you said he's looking like an ace right now, and I kind of said, well, the Dodgers are swinging. He looked like an ace the whole entire World Series when you take a look at it. So he made everyone pretty much eat their words on that. If you tell me they only need Chris Sale for one start, and they used Chris Sale for one start and then brought him in to end the series almost as if it was kind of like a mockery to everybody, like, haha, we don't even have to pitch our best pitcher. We're going to let some of these other guys go, and then we're just going to throw Chris Sale at you just to end the World Series. And then they trolled everybody. They got to be one of the top 3 teams of this century right now. I mean, it was amazing what they did. They annihilated the best teams in baseball, and it wasn't close. They annihilated them.
And really, they annihilated, like you said, 108 wins. They annihilated people all year.
Everybody.
It was amazing. 108 out of 162 games. That is amazing. That is I think exactly 2/3. That's
wire to wire too. I mean, pretty much they were the best team from the open. Yeah, there was a little bit like, oh, this team over here, that team, but they pretty much just stole it and just ran from it from the get-go as being the top team. And when everyone doubted them, they shut everybody up in a dominant fashion. It was an amazing season by them.
I mean, the Yankees win 100 games and they finish 8 games behind. Tampa wins 9. Tampa went 90-72. That's a really good record. 18 games behind in the division.
The division was never close. The last 2 months, it wasn't even close either. 100 wins from the Yankees, and it's not close. And
right.
Yeah, that's how good they were, man. Crazy.
And that was what was funny too. When you see, they showed the picture of Benintendi when he made that jumping catch, and of course you have the leaderboard, the AL East standings in the background. Yeah. And people were pointing out, you look at the Baltimore Orioles, 61 games out of first place. It's like, wow, that's pretty bad. That's ridiculous.
They were out of it in April.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so impressive. And I think the one of the big differences is, like you said, David Price just, went from lousy in the playoffs to absolutely awesome. I mean, winning 2 games in the series, that's just huge.
Yeah, he was, like you said, his postseason career stats, he had a 4.62. He has a 4.62 ERA. So what he did this postseason, a sub-2 ERA with a couple of wins and flat out dominant in the World Series, it had to feel great for him doing that, just because everyone, he's one of the highest paid pitchers there is. They signed him to Boston, brought him there to deliver this type of performance. And, they rode his back to a point, and the bullpen, everybody sat back and said was terrible. And how are they going to bridge this gap to the closer? How are they going to do this? Well, they rode that bullpen and kind of said, haha, this bullpen's really good, so take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you look at it too, with Price, considering Sale didn't really, if you look at it, he really didn't pitch that well in the postseason. He pitched. He didn't pitch great in Game 1 against Houston. I mean, he matched Verlander fairly well, but I think he only lasted 4 innings. He gave up a couple runs, and then even in the first game of the World Series, because then he got sick, his stomach issue, and then even in the first game of the World Series,
getting sick. He got a belly button ring. There's a little stuff out there. Come on.
Yeah. I don't know what that was all about. I don't believe that for a minute, but whatever. I don't believe that for a minute, but anyway, yeah. When you talk about it, you brought in Price and you brought in Sale to be your 1-2 punch basically in the playoffs, and Price was the one that stepped up, whereas everyone was looking at Sale to be the guy, and Sale didn't have to be the guy. Price was the guy. Eovaldi came in, like Bruce said. He pitched 6 innings of shutout baseball in an 18-inning game, a quality start in an 18-inning game in relief. And Porcello was mix and match too, because Cora used him a couple times in relief in the Houston series and also in the World Series. So he was, Price was the man. And I personally would have given him the MVP.
Yeah.
But I think Pierce hitting those 2 home runs in the last game. But I just think in a 5-game series, if you're going to have one starter pitch 2 quality starts like that, I think Price should have gotten it. But I think that was kind of like an aside from some of the voters because of the issues. I mean, I'm up here in Boston, and I've heard it for the past 2 years. All the knocks on Price, that he's this, he's that. And, of course, he goes back at the media, which we all know in big markets like Chicago, L.A., New York, Boston. That's the last thing you want to do because you're going to get beat up even more by the media then when you go back at them. And that's the issues Price has had. He went back at Dennis Eckersley last year, who does the commentary on NESN up here, and they just had a little thing going. And he's definitely shut up the critics, no doubt, but he's had his fair share of them for the past 2 years. I mean, and you look at it this way, even though Boston spends the most amount of money, you're paying $30 million a year for a pitcher. You got to produce, especially in the playoffs. Got to get it done. You know.
So check this out. We were talking about Chris Sale. Boston was so good that they only needed 18 innings from Chris Sale from 7/27. So what is that? July 27th. They only needed 18 innings after that of him through until the playoffs started, and they rode that comfortable lead. And he never pitched over 5 innings during that whole time. So when we take a look at it, he didn't pitch a ton in the second half. He didn't pitch a ton in the playoffs because he wasn't very good. Well, I mean, when he was, but he wasn't like Chris Sale standards of elite that you expected. And then the World Series, he didn't have to really pitch a ton, and Boston steamrolled, and they didn't really rely on their ace during almost the whole entire stretch. When you think about it, that to me, I think puts like the cherry on top almost. When you take a look at it, they pretty much got to sit back and say, hey, we left our ace on the bench for the majority of it, and we still crushed everybody's soul. You know?
Yeah, he didn't even qualify for the ERA title this year.
158 total innings this year. That's crazy.
Yeah, you need 162 to qualify for the ERA title. You need 1 inning per game played. So yeah, that's how little he pitched. You're right. Yeah, Price was their ace. Price and Eovaldi down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. They relied on them heavily. Yeah. And they super deep team. They were timely. They made the Dodgers look bad. The Dodgers did not look comfortable. I thought they were forced into some errors that they didn't have to be forced into, you know, and Boston jumped all over them. When there was a mistake, they capitalized. Whenever they faced adversity, Boston just responded and crushed them. Like, you're down by 4 and they put up a 3 spot the very next inning. So all of a sudden, well, you're not down by 4, and it's like now the Red Sox have the momentum again. You know, it's amazing what they were doing, and yeah, what a great season, you know.
Was it just the Red Sox were that good and the Dodgers just crapped it out again in the playoffs? Did they contribute to? Did they not help their situation?
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
No, go for it, Johnny.
I think Boston was that good. I mean, yes, I think the Dodgers ran out of steam to a certain extent, but Boston is just that good. Like we just talked about, they didn't even need their ace to be an ace. They had other guys to step up, you know. And like we said before, even going into the Houston series, which is why I thought Houston was going to win, was basically their depth and their bullpen other than Kimbrel. During the season, They didn't have much, and there was a question going into the playoffs with Boston. That was their weak spot, aside from Kimbrel. How are you going to bridge Sale, Price, or Porcello? How are you going to bridge that 6-7